afternoon, actually. So, if I can get my PowerPoint up there, that'd be great. So, last week, I'll just relay a little story before I get started. Last week I was at the grocery store, and I got a text from my wife. And she's asking me to pick up some Dove soap, salad dressing, and the bag of chips we're on there. So this cold sweat just breaks out on the back of my neck as this sinking feeling enters my stomach. So I grabbed my phone. I frankly texted her back, asking her to clarify, but she must have gotten into the car because there's no response. So I'm on my own here. So why don't you make a big deal about this, you might ask? So I gotta walk closer here. Hold on. I'm going to get my sermon from over here, I think. What the heck? That wasn't the PowerPoint, that's why it's not working. So I walk over to the bath products aisle and I find the section of Dove soap, and I'm like completely frozen. Now you guys might not know this, there are 75 different varieties of Dove soap. And I have no idea which one my wife wants. Do I get the deep moisture with the gentle exfoliating or the sensitive skin body wash? Should I get original scent, shea butter, pomegranate, or coconut milk? Up to a year ago, I was a bachelor. I didn't realize there were different flavors of soap. So I kind of just close my eyes and I grab a bottle at random and I head to the salad dressing aisle, and it's even worse over there. My supermarket, and I counted this, carries 175 different varieties of salad dressing, if you don't count the 10 different extra virgin olive oils and the 12 different balsamic vinaigrettes that you could use to make your own salad dressing in case none of the 175 salad dressings in the store suits you. So my supermarket, my supermarket also carries 285 varieties of cookies, 230 different soups, 85 different iced teas, and 40 flavors of toothpaste. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the decidedly first world problem of being spoiled for choice. See, every day we make 1,000 decisions that will inform our lives and define who we are. And most of the time, we are spoiled for choice. Not even our children are spared from this. I watched my son become paralyzed by indecision every single morning. When I was a kid, I ate a bowl of Cheerios and watched the Smurfs every morning because that was all we had in the kitchen, and that was all was on TV. Today, my son struggles to choose between 15 types of cereal, 5 varieties of muffins, 8 different fruits, and 6 ways to prepare an egg. And then he turns on Netflix and is bombarded by a choice of 6,494 movies and 1,609 TV shows to turn his brain into mush with. Every day, we choose what to wear, when to eat, who to watch, where to go. We have so many choices to make. Even our identities are now a matter of choice. We don't inherit an identity, we get to invent it, and we get to reinvent it as often as we like. And that means that every day when you wake up in the morning, you have to decide what kind of person you want to be. So all this has me thinking about the choices we make and why we make them. More than ever, our choices inform our identities, and we are what we choose to do. So today I want to talk about a very specific choice that was made a long time ago. I've been teaching through the different characters in the Bible this year, and this week the Jewish world is celebrating the festival of Purim. So I think it's appropriate for us to take a closer look at one of the central figures of that story. A man who made a very strange decision. So today, let's talk about Mordecai. Okay. So we have these iconic images in our head when we think about the figures in the Bible. We picture Adam eating the apple, Abraham about to sacrifice Isaac, Moses carrying the 10 Commandments down the mountain. So when you think of Mordecai, what is the image that you see in your head? Yes. See, for me, it's that iconic image of Mordecai refusing to bow to Haman. So while the rest of Persia was submitting to Haman's tyranny, Mordecai had the courage to defy him. That's why he's the hero of the book of Esther. So if you were at the Megillah reading last week, we had a good time there. So whenever we read Mordecai's name, what do? Yay! Mordecai. Yay! He's the hero. He's the good guy. He stood up to Haman and he saved the Jewish people from genocide. But the problem is Mordecai runs into the same problem that a lot of heroes do, in that most of the problems that they solve were caused by heroes in the first place. So, like Batman, he throws a small-time crook into a vat of chemicals, and out comes the Joker. Superman travels to Earth to become its protector, but his alien buddies follow him here and attack the planet. So the same kind of holds true for Mordecai. Yes, he saved the Jewish people. But sometimes we forget that the only reason the Jews were in danger in the first place was because Mordecai provoked Haman. And I think that these stories are so familiar to us that we sometimes don't think to ask why. Why did Mordecai refuse to bow? Haman had just received this big promotion, and there was a decree issued by the king that everyone was supposed to bow before Haman, but when he walked by, and everyone else had no problem bowing, Mordecai publicly defied him. Why did Mordecai choose to do that? Why does he choose to do that? Is he trying to infuriate Haman? Now, I'll give Mordecai the benefit of the doubt. In all likelihood, he thought he was only endangering his own life. He never anticipated that Haman would react like he did. But even then, why risk your life just to thumb your nose at Haman? So, I'm not the first person to ask this question. And there are a few accepted answers, but I just want to go through them quickly and see if they really make sense. So, the simple reason that Mordecai didn't bow to Haman is because bowing before a human being, it's a terrible sin. It's like idolatry, right? So Mordecai is just standing up for his faith here. But is it really idolatry to bow before a human being, like in the Bible? So the Torah is full of examples of humans bowing before other humans. Abraham bows before his visitors who come to his tent. Jacob bows before his brother Esau. The sons of Jacob bow before Joseph. People bow all the time. It's just a way of showing deference. It's not idolatry. It's just how the world works. Pretty sure Mordecai himself bowed before Xerxes later on in the story. So Mordecai doesn't have an issue with the act of bowing itself. Another reason why Mordecai won't bow is because we read in the Talmud that Haman wore an idol around his neck. And that bowing to Haman would be the same as bowing to the idol. So that's an interesting theory, but the problem is, it's just not in the Bible. I love Midrash, don't get me wrong, but it helps us to understand the Bible in so many new ways, but in the end, it's just speculation and stories. So the Megillah itself is silent about why Mordecai refused to bow. Let's actually go into the text and look. If you have your Bibles with you, you can open up to Esther, chapter 3, and read the story along with me. So let me read here. Sometime later, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, elevating him and setting his chair above all the officials who were with him. All the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and paid honor to Haman, for the king had commanded concerning him. But Mordecai would not bow down. And then the king's servants who were at the king's gate said to Mordecai, "Why are you disobeying the king's command?" And day after day they spoke to him, but he would not listen to them. I mentioned sometimes how these stories become so familiar that we sometimes miss details. I always imagine Haman parading through town while all the poor citizens of the entire empire had to stop whatever they're doing and bow down to him. But that's not what the text tells us. If we read this carefully, let me go back for a second, we see that the only people who are bowing are the king's servants who live within the palace. Haman has been promoted to the top servant, and all the other servants were supposed to bow to him. And Mordecai isn't just a random guy in all this. He's also one of the king's servants. So this is actually a fairly localized issue. So again, Haman is going out and about, and all the courtiers and ministers are bowing to him, except for one man, Mordecai. And all the other servants are looking at him, and they're asking, "Why aren't you listening to the king's orders?" All right, so stop right there for a minute. So these courtiers, they've really asked our question for us, haven't they? Why won't you bow, Mordecai? What's the reason behind it? So we as the readers, we want to know too. And this is where we crane our heads to listen. What will Mordecai say? Well, turns out he says nothing. He remains silent. Day after day, the courtiers ask him, "Why won't you bow?" And day after day, Mordecai refuses to listen to them. He just stands there. not bowing. This is frustrating for me as a reader, because I need to understand Mordecai's motivations here. We know what the consequences of his action will be. We know that Mordecai is risking not only his own life, but putting every Jewish person in the world in terrible danger. So he needs to be doing this for a good reason, or I can't accept that he is a hero. But all we have is silence. The thing is, the answer to why Mordecai made the choice he did may lie inside that silence. Let's take a closer look at this passage here in Esther 3:4. And it came to pass, day after day they spoke to him, but he would not listen to them. Now, if you are a sharp-eyed Torah scholar who has memorized the entire Bible, this verse would sound very familiar to you. You see, this phrase appears almost word for word in another place in the Torah. And that place is in the story of Joseph. So we all remember how Joseph was sold as a slave into Egypt and became the servant of a man named Potiphar. And Joseph soon became the head of Potiphar's household and was entrusted with everything the master owned. Then one day, the master's wife, the second most powerful person in the house, came to Joseph and asked him to sleep with her. She asked him to submit to her and take the one thing that the master had not given Joseph. So how does Joseph respond to this temptation? Well, he refuses. But the wife doesn't relent. Instead, day after day, yom vayom, she asks him, but Yosef lo shama, he doesn't listen. It's word for word. Now, I'm not shocked by a Torah scholar who has memorized the entire Bible here. But the sages of the Talmud are, and they caught this connection between Mordecai and Joseph, and they commented, the tests of the children of Rachel are the same, and the reward is the same. See, the rabbis noticed something interesting here. The protagonists of these two stories are related to each other. They were both children of the matriarch Rachel. So Joseph, of course, was her firstborn son, and Mordecai is from the tribe of Benjamin, Rachel's other son. So the sages say these two children of Rachel faced identical tests and received the same reward for passing their tests. And that is true to an extent. Both Joseph and Mordecai end their stories as the second in command to the most powerful king in the world, Joseph to Pharaoh and Mordecai to Xerxes. So their reward is the same. But are their tests really the same? I mean, Haman isn't trying to seduce Mordecai, is he? Gross image there. So maybe it's not a literal seduction, but like Joseph, but the Hebrew scriptures are carefully constructed, and there are no coincidences in the Word of God. Context is everything. And if the author of the Megillah was inspired to lift this phrase word for word from the Joseph story, it must have been for a reason. It must have been because Mordecai is going through the same thing that Joseph did. This is the key to Mordecai's choice. If we can understand why Joseph acted as he did, we can then infer that Mordecai is acting for the same reasons. So, why did Joseph act as he did? Why didn't he just give in and sleep with the master's wife? I'm sure she was beautiful and no one would have been any the wiser. See, when Potiphar's wife asked Joseph to sleep with her, he tells her, my master's been good to me. He's given me everything I could want. The only thing he's held back from me is you. I cannot take what belongs only to my master. How can I betray him? Joseph is acting out of loyalty to Potiphar. He refuses to bow, as it were, because to do so would be a betrayal of his master. And so if the sages are correct, and the tests of Joseph and Mordecai are the same, that means that Mordecai is refusing to bow to Haman because he too is loyal to his master, the king. And that to submit to Haman will be taking something that belonged only to the king. All right, now hold on a minute here. You might be asking yourself, how does that make sense? The king himself is the one who made the decree that everyone should bow to Haman. Mordecai is defying the king, not being loyal to him. See, this is where having some Hebrew language skills really comes in handy. Let's actually look at this text and see what the king really commanded. Okay, remember how I said that we're really spoiled for choice in this country? There are over 900 different translations of the Bible, and that's just in English. 900 slightly different versions of the same story. Now, why is that? It's because it's really hard to translate ancient Hebrew into modern English and get everything right. That's why serious Bible scholars read this book in the original Hebrew. So if we were to do that, to read this in Hebrew, we would notice a strange mistranslation that makes it into most English Bibles. In English, the text reads, "All the king's servants who were in the king's gate bowed down and paid homage to Haman, for so the king had commanded concerning him." You'll notice I put the word concerning in parentheses there. I did that because that word, or any of its equivalents, doesn't appear in the Hebrew. The translators added it in to make the sentence make a little more sense. If we were to read the original Hebrew, what it actually says is, "Hichen sivah lo hamelech." The king's servants bowed to Haman, for so the king commanded him. Now hold on. Who did the king command? You'd imagine that he commanded the servants, right? That would be logical. That's why most translators add the word concerning, or about, or regarding. That's not what the text really says. It says the king commanded him. Lo, it's a singular pronoun. It indicates the king was talking to only one person. So if we're reading this right, then what the text is telling us is that all the servants were bowing because the king had given that command, not to them, but to Haman. Deeper down the rabbit hole. So this begs a couple of questions now. Why did the king only give the command to Haman? And how did the other courtiers know about it? Well, the rabbis of the Talmud do have an answer. They think that something like this happened. So Haman goes before the king and he says, "Oh, Your Majesty, now that I've been promoted, wouldn't it be a good idea for the other servants to show me some respect and some deference? Shouldn't they bow before me? After all, I represent the crown, so really they'd be bowing to you." So the king is hearing this, and this is an awkward conversation. This is a really inappropriate thing for Haman to ask. Have you guys ever gotten into an awkward conversation with like a weird person, and the only way you can get out of the conversation is just agree with whatever crazy thing they're saying? So the rabbi speculated this is exactly what happened here. The king's feeling awkward, so he's like, sure, Haman, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, everyone should bow to you. That's right, yeah. Now, this is a private conversation between Haman and the king, but Haman just runs with it. He goes out and he tells her, "Hey, everyone, hey, you guys, I just talked to the king, and you'll never guess what he just said. You all have to bow to me." This reminds me of an old story of two twin brothers who were the sons of a king. One day the king died suddenly before he could name his heir. And the two brothers argued over which of them should be the next king. So one morning, one of the brothers came in and said, "It's been settled. Last night, Father came to me in a dream, and he told me that I should be the next king." His brother turned to him and said, "If Dad wanted you to be king, he'd have come and told me, not you." So Haman's pulling the same trick here. He's taking advantage of a private conversation and using it to take more power for himself. He's taking something that should be reserved for his master for himself. And everyone knows it. The courtiers aren't fooled, but they're afraid of Haman and his new power. So they submit to him. They bow when he walks by. They give him honor that should only belong to the king. Except for one man. Only Mordecai has the courage to stay standing. See, Purim is a holiday where everything gets turned around. And Mordecai realizes that the only way he can be truly loyal to his king is to disobey the decree. So it would seem we have our answer. Mordecai isn't standing up to Haman out of stubbornness or pride or religious objections. He resists for the same reason that Joseph resisted. Because he isn't willing to go along with taking something that belongs to his master. But is that all that's really going on here? I'll be honest with you, it's just not very inspirational. Mordecai is a hero because he was loyal to, wait for it, King Xerxes. Is that all we can take away from this? I think there's something more profound going on with Mordecai and with his choice to defy Haman. And I think it informs more of his character than it seems at first glance. The decisions we make, I mentioned before, they define our character, but even more important than our decisions are the reasons that we make them. So loyalty to your boss is a good quality, but what's the motivation behind that loyalty? Loyalty is the overarching theme of Mordecai's story throughout the Megillah. We just talked about how Mordecai was loyal to his king, but that's not the only thing he's loyal to. He's loyal to the Jewish people. He prays for them and intercedes for them and stands up for them when they're in danger. He's loyal to his family. He takes in his orphaned cousin Hadassah when her parents die, and he stays with her and protects her, and she becomes the queen. And of course, there's another act of loyalty in the Megillah, when the two guards, Bigthan and Teresh, attempt to assassinate the king. Mordecai overhears them planning, and he foils their plot. The Megillah is weaving these separate stories together to create a picture of a man of great integrity and loyalty in Mordecai. But what the Megillah doesn't flat out tell us is why Mordecai acts the way he does. Now, there's a dark side to loyalty. You could be loyal because you really care about people and you're a good friend to them, but you could also be loyal because you see some advantage to it. It benefits you in some way. There's genuine loyalty, and then there's selfish, counterfeit loyalty. So, what kind of man is Mordecai? At the beginning of the story, we don't really know. We know that he foiled the guard's plan, but we don't know why. The text doesn't tell us. As a reader, we might think to ourselves, maybe Mordecai just wants a reward. Maybe he just was really looking out for himself. Maybe he's not really loyal. He just wants to be seen that way, to look good in front of his king. But this is why the Megillah juxtaposes these two stories. Right after Mordecai saves the king from the assassins, we read this story of Mordecai standing up to Haman. And this time the circumstances are completely different. Now is the true test of Mordecai's character. See, it's easy to be loyal when you receive a reward for it. It's much harder to be loyal when you know you will suffer for your faithfulness. Joseph knew that. It would have been so easy for him to sleep in Potiphar's wife. No one would ever know, and he would continue to be in his master's good graces. He'd keep his position, he'd reap the rewards, and still look good to everyone. But instead, he chooses true loyalty. He fled naked from the house, knowing what it looked like, knowing that he'd suffer for his choice, but choosing to do the right thing anyways. And now, hundreds of years later, Mordecai faces the same challenge. It's so easy for him to bow. He's in really good standing with the court right now. He's the hero who saved the king. If he bows, all that will stay the same. He'll look good in front of the court. He'll keep being rewarded. But for him to show true loyalty, to truly do the right thing for his master, he has to put himself in danger, make himself look bad in front of everyone, lose his reputation in his position. What will he do? He stands. He chooses true loyalty. With no hope of reward or advancement, he refuses to bow. He stays true to his convictions and maintains his integrity. And like Joseph, he suffers for it, but God rewards his faithfulness in the end. This is the great lesson that we can learn from Mordecai. Why do we make the choices that we do? Do we do them to look good in front of others, or are we people of true integrity? Do you give to charity because it's a tax write-off? Because you truly care about making the world a better place? Are you kind to people at work because you want people to like you? Or because you genuinely care about them? Would you still do the right thing, even if it didn't benefit you? Even if doing the right thing hurt? Even if it made you look bad? Messiah Yeshua, he faced a similar test. While he was fasting in the wilderness, the tempter came to him and offered him an easy way out. He showed Yeshua all the kingdoms of the world. All this can be yours. Everyone will love you. You'll be a great king. All you need to do is bow. See, everyone loved Yeshua. He was a great miracle worker and teacher. Thousands of people followed him wherever he went. If he bows, he can have all that and more. He'll keep being rewarded. He'll look good to everyone. But Yeshua stood. He refused to bow, not to the enemy. He was loyal to his master, and he chose to do the right thing, even though it took him down the hardest road imaginable. He was made to look like a common criminal. He died a sinner's death on a cross, and he did it because he was faithful to us. These stories of Yeshua and Joseph and Mordecai teach us that the true test of character is doing the right thing when it become at a great cost. Why do you make the choices that you make? Will you do good only when it benefits you, or will you be a true champion of an ideal larger than yourself? Messiah Yeshua was. Joseph was. Mordecai was. And their choices and why they made them in the face of these questions is what made them great. May we all have the courage to add our names to their ranks. Shabbat shalom.